Dave here. How are you? Today on the show we're going to have a look at this little fence that I made for the router table. We'll actually use it, and I'm going to show you something else, another tip for using a router table, and it's something I came up with during the week, and it's going to help me out big time. It might help you, you never can tell. Now also we'll have a look at the new version of the Stanton Dog Locks down here, and I'll answer a few questions about those. And we will also have a look at this right here, this hole here. People ask me how to set that one out. I'll go through that as well. See you soon.
Dave here, how are you? Dave here, how are you? Today is the 15th of May 2022. I hope you've all been well. I see Dr. Greg has come down with the dreaded COVID. Derek, I think that Brett was after an affiliate link from me, so I shall get that for him later on. All right, so as I say, I hope everyone's had a good week, and let's get into it today. The big news for me is that I've launched a new Stanton Dog Lock, and they're basically an upgrade to allow you to use these with the corded version of the Festool track saw. The reason that I had to come up with these is my cordless saw travels over them perfectly, over my old model. Not a problem at all. But the motor in the corded version sits down about another couple of millimeters lower than the digital motor in the battery version. See this part here. So, and it's only right at the bottom, so hardly anyone would be concerned, but there you go. They're done. And I had someone saying to me, why can't I put them on the outside? Why have you got to put them in between? Well, I'll show you right now. Let me get a couple of dogs. I'll show you how to set them up, because it's quick. Drop that down properly. What's going on there, David? Ah, the O-ring is starting to come out. That's better. Ha! And on this one. Right. The end furthest away from you, which is this one, you'll notice has just got cheesehead screws. So they get set and forget. You don't touch them anymore. Tighten them up with a screwdriver. Don't try and be Hercules. It doesn't need super tightening. It's just a tighten them up, and then when you push them in there, as you lower it down, the whole idea is as it lowers down, it's going to fill the gap between the front and the back dog. Now the back dog is the one that is adjustable. That's why it's got the thumb screws. See that? Goes backwards and forwards. They have a section that I designed to go straight into the T-track on the guide rails, and it's quite nice. It self-centers, so as you slide it in, the other way around of course. Now you'll notice also one other thing. The thumb screw comes down below. It's not an issue. It really isn't, because these things come down from the top. So once you've slid it in, pull it back. So you hear that? It's going to do a little bump. I'll go to CarCam so you can see it, because I've had people say to me, well, what's the story there? Close up. No, let's go to this one. Okay, so just here, watching as it comes past. Hear that? Well, as soon as you go past there, then you push it up. Now, these may also work. I've got to make sure I'm pushing up to the other end as well. They may also work with the with 3/4 inch dogs, because there's not a lot of difference there to there. In the diameter, it's 19.05, and these are 20. So yeah, they might work with those as well. So there you go. It slides in. You can hear it taking it up as you go down. Beautiful. They don't slide out. They're not going to go anywhere. They work great. Whilst we're here, let's talk about the next thing. I've had someone ask me how to get these two holes here. So I'll take these out and I'll show you. So that hole there and that hole there. Now they're there on purpose to give me as much space for the dog to be out of the line of these. So you put more dogs in here that your product pushes up against, and this is totally so that you've got a little bit more space for the rail to drop in for this oar to travel, dip more distance. How we put those ones there is you put that there, tighten her up, this one here, tighten her up, and then you get a piece of whatever, just as long as it's parallel, so you can use a piece of timber, like so, just as long as this is dressed parallel. And if you want to be super duper accurate, you can get, well, I can put my Veritas straight edge on it. And you might say, well, that's great, Dave, so what do we do then? Well, you get your path guide and you just slide it along the edge until you get to a spot where it looks like that might be where you want to put the hole. It doesn't have to be exactly there. It can be this way a little further. The reason it's, you do the same at the other end, of course, and then you drill your hole. The reason it's there, let me move that out of the way, is here. I'm overhanging the edge of the bench by about 4 millimeters. I'll just slide her along a little. I'm overhanging the edge of the bench by about 4 millimeters. If it overhangs the edge of the bench by even an inch, 20, 25 millimeters, whatever, it's not the end of the world. It's fine. Doesn't matter. Doesn't matter. So that hole there can be this way further. Just don't want to go that way any further. Now, different tracks are going to have different styles. So maybe if you're using a Bosch track, you might want to set up your dog holes a little further over. I don't know the width of the Bosch track. So it's something to consider. This is the distance, that's the crucial thing, and it's got to make sure that the saw isn't going to come past and cut into the bench. There you go. It's pretty easy. And the other direction, well, say you haven't got a piece of wood long enough to do for the rip at that end. Let me slide this along, and this one down here. See these two? Well, we don't have to be Einstein to work it out. We just get this and we put it there. And this one doesn't have to be down the end. It can be here. Because they're all in line. There you go. Parallel. Get your path guide. Drill your hole. Move these down to the other end, put your piece of wood up against your dogs, put your path guide down the other end. There we go. Done. Any questions? Ask me and I'll tell you. All right. Thanks for that, Doric. Now, I've had a bit of a cold during the week, so I'm not 100%, but some people might say, well, you never are. I did a COVID test because I thought, oh, maybe I've got the rotten old COVID back again. Who knows? But Vicky and I both come down with it. But she seems to have been getting over it better than I have, which is a bit of a turnaround. I mean, a quick read. Dean, Giles, Brett, Michael, Joe, Ron, John, Chris, Brian. Hi, everybody. How you going? 73 people watching already. So hopefully that just answers a couple of questions regarding how I work with these, how I work with this, and how you get those holes that aren't aligned with the rest of the planet. So it's like Pluto. It's going on its own little area all over the place rather than conforming and doing the correct orbits. Anyway, right, what's the next thing? 10 past. We've wasted 10 minutes of your life. Quick drink. The next thing I want to do is I want to show you on the router table a couple of things. Remember last week, first of all, I have to explain something that happened last week. I was over at the drill press and I was fussing around trying to get the fence parallel to the front of the drill press table. Now, I'm fully aware that it doesn't really need to be, because wherever you are, it's going to be basically like a tangent going up past the drill. I can have it going diagonally wherever, just as long as the distance from the drill back to that tangent point, basically, of the fence is the distance you want. Well, then all of your holes are going to be in line. What happened was, what threw me, and this might sound like a sad excuse, the dog didn't eat it, but what happened was, the router table saddle that I made has a Craig fence mounted to it. Craig router table fence, the old version. On the underside of that are little nylon feet that are around about 2 millimeters thick, if that. And that's to allow that fence to slide backwards and forwards on the Craig router table. So they're on mine as well, because it allows it to move around. Now you remember, I set it up on this bench, and I made sure when I had that secondary fence jig thing that I was making, and the router tables, and the Craig fence, I made sure that they were sitting on the cushion strip here at the front when I made the mark. But when I turned it around, I think what had happened was there was a nylon foot sitting somewhere else as well, and it held it up a little bit. So when I drew that line, it was not parallel to the bottom, and so I had this kind of thing happening. There's the edge of the bottom of the jig, and then the line I drew was kind of doing this thing. When I took it over there, and whilst everything else is happening, like running the show and all that kind of stuff, I'm standing there, trying to get both ends. I pushed it along, and I noticed, as I was just checking, I noticed that the line was out at the other end. I thought, what's the story here? And so my brain fell out of my backside, and there you go. That's what happened. But I'm pleased to say the jig is going to work perfectly. So we'll go down to that other camera in a second, and I'll show you it in action. Let me have a look here. John, those holes are for the Pluto dog. Only 10 minutes. COVID wastes not more. Chris, you're down with COVID, but doing okay. As always, I look forward to for the show. More rain there, knocked out our internet. John, you were just telling us how good this internet was. Is it not waterproof? Does the internet rays or whatever, the wireless, can't quite get across to the other side of the valley? I'm just being cheeky. That's a shame. That is a shame. Maybe you need a more waterproof housing on the down the other end. Dean just ordered a MLCS Powerlift Pro. Can't wait for it to arrive. Woodpeckers PRL V2 will be playing second fiddle. Okay, let's go down to the other camera. I'll tip it up just a little bit and spin this around so I can see what's going on. Oh, that's a whole lot easier. Okay, now you can see over the back here. I'll come down here with you guys as well. Come back a little. There we go. So you can see over the back here, we've got large hole down to smaller hole. I had done it this way around on purpose because I didn't want the large hole here. As I was pushing, say, a skinny piece of timber past, I didn't want it dropping into the hole at all. You know, as I said at the time, it's anal, but that's the reason I did it. So these are, so I can guide pieces of timber over a cutter without having the fence. This is the fence here, and there's two halves of the fence, and they do this thing. And there's a big gap you know, even if I narrow it down, there's still this gap and basically a step. And it always, I don't know about you, but I find that I always catch just a little bit and I have to kind of convince the piece of wood to lift ever so slightly to go past. Now you'll notice that Cole's router table fences are all one solid piece. This is partly where I got the idea from. So I'm going to use Cole's tiny, tiny, tiny little dovetail cutter in here, and this is going to be the part of the fence for it. So let's do this. I'm just going to raise it up. This is the lock, just in case. We'll raise it. I'll pick this up. Undid the wrong one and tilt it down so you can see what's going on. Now, if you own one of these router tables, this may help you out as well, how I undo these nuts. Because the Triton, you don't need to, it locks when it comes up to the top, but these ones have got 2 nuts on the collet. So, undoing it, I need to go that way. Let me see. Yep. I'm having a mental blank. Yes. I'm just so conscious about last week and getting it wrong. So I leave that in there. It's onto the bottom nut straight away, and then it gives me 2 hands to work the other end, and like always, your first crack releases it, and then the last one just tends to do that last little bit, and out comes the cutter. Now, I have an insert here that I use. I'm going to take that all the way off because I like to try and clean these out. There's always dust caught down inside here. Do that and it's nice and clean. So all of these little gaps are now able to close up on the cutter. There was a little bit of rubbish down there as well. Gone. And spin this around to the other side, like so. And now for when I tighten it up, I also use this. Put the cutter in. Got him. Ain't going anywhere. Lower him down. Lower this one down. And around here. Right. Drag this one across slowly. We'll have to line that up in a second. Just going to make sure I'm down to the right height. I'm not going to go super far down. That'll do me. And then here, lock it. Done. That can't go up and down now, of course. And an insert. What have we got here? I think that one might do it. Just going to touch. Might use this one. Unlock. This one, the bearing was just going to touch it, so it was just that little bit too tight, and I didn't want anything to affect it. All right, that's looking pretty good. Now I can bring the fence forward. And we can release this and the other one. We'll just move that along. tighten them up. Bring it back so it's kind of like a real dovetail cutter. And then down the end, I will have a look, see if I've got one of these. I do. Down the end, I use this on the end of the fence. Now, I've also got a clip. It goes actually into the fence. Bring this around a little bit further. You can see it. And doing a sliding dovetail, this is always, that holds the end there, so I can't go anywhere. That's what this T-track is for in my setup. Coming close. So now we have that all set. I'm able to push something over that and feel very, very safe. So let's do that. I'll use which one? That one. I might put a pair of those over it, and then I'll demonstrate it with a skinnier piece. What I'd do, let me just grab this for a second. What I'd do, if it was a super skinny piece, I may even drill this out. Just a little bit, drill this one out just a little bit more. They do supply you with a blank. So I would possibly make that, open it up by about another 2 millimeters. So the bearing has no chance of catching in there and fouling things. Just a thought around the edges as we're going along. All right, this guy here. And the good thing about these is they've got a flat here that I can push down onto the table, like so. See that? And then all this side is grip. So that's how it's going to happen in a second. So where are we? Put that one. And this is the sacrificial piece after it. And this will go here. And I'll put the whole thing over it in a second. Put this in here. Let's see if the dog gets annoyed. I'm going to turn the router on. It's going to make a little bit of noise. You ready? And through we go. There. Now that is a much, much cleaner cut than I got last week. You may notice also that I'm going to have to lift that up. It's just down a touch. So there's a little adjustment screw I've got there, and I'll raise that up. But that is such a clean cut for that sliding dovetail. I'm really happy with that. I felt totally safe. I'll do this one now. Well, I'll do this one. This is skinny. And I'm going to put this one behind it just to keep it as square so it doesn't do this thing. This is basically just going to be a square that travels along with it. So let's do that. Bit more noise. Look at that. And again, no fear. Come back here again. No fear of it rocking in at all as it's going past the fence there. I like it. I like it. This is going to stay with me. This is great. The only thing that I don't like about it is the nuts that are on the ends of these machine screws hexagonal, they tend to rock around in the T-track and catch. So square nuts for it are better. I may even print some to go in the back there, like I use for the Stanton Dog Locks. So take this out. This disables it. Right, next thing we're going to do is I'm going to show you a trick. Now, remember the other week, let me just grab this till out of the toolbox. This is looking beautiful. Remember the other week when I made these and this was not square to the side of the till. So it runs off at a bit of an angle. Now, I had to think about that. I think I can do it better. And the method that I've come up with, I'll move this right away to start with. We don't need that anymore. Just push it out of the way. And the other end, of course. And I'm going to take that cutter out. So again, raise this up. Yeah, the toolbox is magic. I love it. All right. This time, I'm hoping I won't have a moment. That, and that. Got him. And unlock. Lower it down. Or raise it up, whichever way it's got to come up. This down inside. Keep coming up. Beautiful. That to there. This one here. Take the insert out. I'm going to put this guy in. This is a 45-degree V cutter. I'll explain why. Lower it down a little bit, I think. That's better. Pull it up a touch while I lock it. And down. Doesn't really need to have that insert in for what I'm going to do, but I'll put it in there anyway. Down a bit further. That's looking good. I've only just got the point up. Now the middle of this point is right on. It's dead center of the whole router assembly in there. So that point there is perfectly center. So I haven't got to worry about using a centering mandrel or anything. This is going to be the easiest way for me to do this. So we'll lock this. Done. Move those over there. The next thing I've got to do is get this, my miter gauge, and I'm going to use this guy that we've just put a little thing there. I'm going to put a block on there, a stop block with a clamp. Set it at 0, lock it in, okay. Now I don't want to push past, so I'm going to stop it there and put one of my Craig featherboards in there as a stop back here. Wrong one, I've got the one with the T-bolts on it, I'll get the other one out. Nope, that's got the T-bolts on it too. What am I doing? What did I used last time? That's right, it was one of the jigs, wasn't it? That's right, this guy. Because I had it there. Anything that's got an expanding block in it will work. So let's drop that in, like so. That one's just going to sit there. Tighten it up. And that's a stop. That's what I'm after. Next thing I want to do is get a piece of scrap, just as long as the ends are square. It's got to be dead square. So I've cut this on the Capex. And I'm going to push this over that and get a line down the back. And then I'm going to show you what I'm going to do. Eye muffs on. A little bit of noise while I turn this fellow on. Done. I like to wait for the router to stop. I'm not in a hurry. Okay. I've got that there now. And you might say, well, that's great, Dave. I've turned it up sideways. I'll take this around to the end. About there. Now, this V is now transferring the center of that, centering the center of the router anywhere along this T-track and miter slot. And you might think, well, that's great. Well, now what I can do is I can put a central mark on here, on the plate, and on the plate here, or back over here on the table, or back over here. I can actually put it in with a pencil. I'll grab a pencil and I'll show you what I'm talking about. Hey, Pierre. Good boy. Now, this isn't a super sharp pencil, but it'll, you know, it'll explain what I'm doing. There, I want to do these. Take that off, lift it up and go over, put it in here, and there. So that pencil is dead center of where I'm going to be traveling. So let's say that I want to, I'm going to let the dog out for a second because he wants to go outside. There you go, buddy. When I was doing the tills, tip this up a little. Come up higher again. When I was doing the tills, I had a piece, this piece here, was down and against this. And I couldn't really see where the center was going to be. So I was kind of judging. And I didn't have this here. I had a couple of clamps. Probably was the wrong way to do it. I got a good result, but you know, I'm just thinking to myself, well, maybe the better thing to do would have been to use this. Now, this, the way that I built this thing, it's on a T-track on the back here. So I can undo these two bolts here, and I can slide this along. Now, I can slide that so it's way past. I can bring it down to here, so back out to there. Put a stop out here, looking at this center line here that I've already got drawn on the table, and have a center line on, what is the dog doing now? have a center line on my piece here. So get the exact center. Then I can put it down and have a look at that center line on the mark, and then end for end it and have another look at that center line on the mark. And if it's not spot on, I'm going to be out again. So then I can halve the difference if it's not spot on and adjust this block to accommodate it. And that is a whole lot more accurate way of doing what I was doing. Some people might say, well, Dave, you could just center it over that. Well, that's down a hole and it's awkward and everything. I much prefer a pencil line right here so I can see it. The other thing I'm thinking about doing is actually cutting a groove in here with a trim router. It's just a nice, very, very thin groove with a point. What are you doing? Hey, stop it. Pierre. Stop it. Stop being naughty. Idiot dog. Yeah, so that, look, comments, please. I'm sure other people have done similar things, but I looked at it and I thought, Rob, how can we get it much more accurate than just, you know, a measurement and kind of lining it up with the dovetail cutter? Because the dovetail cutter doesn't have has width. This is a central point of origin. Remember last week Cole was talking about setting it up, so setting his jig from a center point. And that's one of the things that got me thinking about this. Anyway, interesting. I'm going to switch around to the other camera. Cole, what are you doing here? Back again. Push this back just a touch. Good morning, Bianca. I'm just going to slide back through here. So Cole's in here madly apologising. What do you think about my little idea there? The dog wants to be in the show. Pierre, you going to come over here? Come here. Come on. Yes, I think you're right. I think he does. I think he wants to be in the show. There we go. Whoop. Back up on the table, buddy. Up you go. He'll see the dog. He'll see himself on the monitor in a second. Hey, Pierre. Look. Who's that? He's not going to do it now. Anyway, he's becoming a good dog. He's still a pain, but not to worry. Go to sleep. It's a bench dog. All right. If you spray it with clear, it will be there for many times. Yes, John. I think. Chris, Dave, is your Patreon's list up to date? Chris, it should be. It should be. So there's a certain level of patron that you have to be. Chris, I think you're a $5 patron. Is that correct? I'll have to check. But some people make a big payment and then go a small payment. This guy is a French Bulldog. And he's an ex-breeder and he's 4.5 years old. And so I never got him as a pup. So I got him as a full-grown dog and he seems to be enjoying life, part of the family. You right there? Right? He says, give me a pat. All right, there you go. All right, I'm going to pop him off. And what do we got next? What do we got next on the show? Remember a while ago, I got some tactics got in touch with me and said, Dave, we'll have a look at the things that we have. And if you like anything, give us a shout and we'll flick some out to you. So I had a look through a massive list of things. And I think there was about 8 items in total that I liked. So they've got different things. They send things out to me spasmodically. One of the things that arrived is this. Now this is an IP65 case. It's not waterproof. You can't put it in the water because it'll fill up with water. On the front here it's got a little valve, and that will probably stop it being a waterproof thing. But that releases the air so you can open it. Now inside, the reason I'm showing you is it has this foam. Now the foam has already been cut. I thought this was fascinating. So what you do, whatever you want to put in here, whether it's a camera or whether it's some really nice tools or a theodolite or a dumpy level or anything like that, what you do is you pull out the pieces of foam that you don't want. So they're squares around about 1/2 inch by 1/2 inch, so it'd be 12 point whatever millimeters. So you pull it out and just put your item in there, and it's got this seal all the way around here, and they have a few different sizes, but I like it. I like it. It's like a pelican case. Have you heard of those things? It's the same kind of thing. Anyway, 100. Okay, Chris, I'll have a look at that for you. Not a problem. I'll update it after the show. So there you go. Interesting. Going to have another look at the tool case, the tool chest. I'll bring it down here. I'll actually move the Stanton bench out of the way because I wanted to go through those couple of things I like to address. If anyone's got a concern, I can address it on the show, and it makes it a whole lot quicker. Let me have a quick read. Centerline on the router table is essential. I've done this on my removable router table. I like it. Black. We use a similar box of removable backup discs at work. Yeah, it's not really kind of a topic of the show, but I thought these guys got in touch with me, and it's no skin off my nose to, if I like one of their products, I'll show you. They've got another one which is a roll around cut, and I'm waiting for the last part to arrive, and I really like it. It's going to be fantastic. But there's a lot of things that I go ho-hum. Some people might like them, but I'm only going to show you the things that I think that I like. I'll get the tool chest and bring it over, then we'll come down through CarlCam. I haven't done any more work on it during the week because I've been pressure cleaning. Oh. Whoop. Now that's the back of it, as you can see. And I'll get the other sliding till. The purple heart is holding its colour really well, and that was using, I didn't quite explain it well enough last week. What did we have? The box, the outside of the box, I sanded from 120 all the way up to 1,000. I then painted it with the sanding sealer, and it's more of a wash, really, like using a brush and a little cup that I put the sanding sealer into, and just wash it all over it, and it soaks in really quick. And what that does, it sets, and it locks all the fibres. When you wet timber, all the fibres stick up, and you run your hand over it, and it feels a bit furry. So this is like water wetting it, and then it locks it. And so as you put, then you need to sand it. So after that, I sanded with 500 grit paper. I didn't want to go 1,000 again because I didn't want it too shiny. Thanks, Chris. The shinier it is, the finer you sand before you put the oil on, the shinier the box is going to be, or the shinier the timber is going to be. So I went to 1,000. Then I hit it with Liberon finishing oil, and I gave it a light rub over with 4-0 steel wool after that. So that's the outside. So it's pretty shiny. And then on the top, after the oil dried, after 2 or 3 coats, I then hit it with the steel wool again, and then I waxed it. So that's the finish you're seeing there. That's been waxed. pretty snazzy for a toolbox, isn't it? Now the other stuff, the tills on the inside of the box are more of a matte finish. Now these were sanded to about 240 grit. Then I painted them with the sanding sealer, rubbed it over again with the 500 sandpaper, and then did it with the Libron finishing oil and 500 paper in between coats on that, and that's the result. It's a nice matte finish. If I'd taken it up a little bit harder with the paper, maybe if I'd taken it up to 500 in the original sanding, it may have given it more of a satin finish than a matte finish. Anyway, let's have a look down inside from Carlcam. So this is the lid. Open it up. I've got no idea what you can see. All right, there you go. So that's the lower till. And then we've got the upper till. And in position, and we've got Purple Heart runners here as well. Now with those, how I did them, I started talking about this the other day, but I stopped for some reason. I got the bottom till, which is the one I just took out, and I measured the length of it, and then I got some pine, same as the pine on the sides, but I thicknessed it down so that two pieces added together would be slightly less than the difference between the inside width and the length of the shorter till. So that distance here. Then I got some Purple Heart and I glued it to the top. This whole section was done as one piece. And I also got some Purple Heart, and it was about 20 millimeters wide this way and 10 millimeters thick this way. And I glued it to the underside of this piece. So these two ends were totally finished outside of the box. Then I brought them in and I cut some packers to go underneath to support them at the right height and working off the floor, and then glue and then some deep throat clamps to hold that in position. Same on the other side, pull the packers out, put them on the other side, deep throat clamps, lock it up. And that's that. Now this one, I'm still wondering whether or not I'll put any felt in this one. I possibly will. Now what do you think? Should I go with burgundy or should I go with green? What do? I don't know. And you remember also I was thinking about putting felt on the ends here, so that when it was sliding, it wouldn't catch at all. No, I don't think I will. I think this will be fine. I think it'll be lovely. Anyway, close the lid, then I can see what's happening again out there. Michael, let me just switch the cameras and I'll have a look. I'll move this over here. Just moving a couple of things around so I don't get caught up with too much. Okay, spin this around. You think green, John? Where are we? What type of sanding sealer? It's this one. U-Butte Polishers, or U-Butte Polish. There you go. That was the one that I used. This is from Carbotech. It's a flammable liquid, so I don't think they can post it to you. You can go and pick it up or you can get a courier to collect it for you if you want. But they will post it, but they charge you a bomb. I think it's about $50 extra to post flammable liquids. Well, at least it was about 5 months ago. Well, it's actually not red in there, it's burgundy. So you think I should go with burgundy. And the blue, I don't have any royal blue, Greg, but I was thinking that. I might have a look around to see if I can find some blue, because I think that might be nice. Michael, this is the finishing oil that I used on it, and you know, I'm really happy with this. And the sanding sealer, I've tried to use it before and I've never really had much success, but now, after I've used it on this project, I can see the advantage of it, and it's worked really nicely. Okay, doing a bit more reading. Coming back down here. There, green, consistent, stay with the burgundy, blue, red, blue, green is like money, red for consistency. Normally I like consistency, but in this case a different. Yeah, miters on the Paduke will open up with expansion of the pine top. Ross, it's not Paduke. It is Purple Heart. And Ross, have you been watching the show before or not? So what I've done, can you hear him? He goes upstairs in the office and starts howling. Anyway, so what I've done on the lid, I'll bring it round and I'll show you what I've done. So, long grain. I'm guessing this is what you're talking about. I'll tip the camera up a little bit so you can see. Whoop, this way. Now, I got around it. The miters aren't going to open up. This part is all glued. This part here is glued to about here, and then there's no more glue. Hello. Was that good? You enjoyed howling up there, did you? I'll show you on the inside what I've done with the lid. These are pocket holes. You notice the top one is skinnier than the rest of them. So if you have a look down the other side, it's a bit more obvious. The top one is a single pocket hole that I've done. These ones are two pocket holes side by side, separated by about 4 millimeters. So I drew two lines, 4 millimeters apart, and they were my center lines for the pocket holes. Then clamped the whole thing together so it couldn't move, and put a pocket hole screw right in the middle between the two. So I still had kind of an elliptical hole at the bottom. This allows the pocket hole to travel as this part here expands and contracts. This is not going to expand and contract. This is going to stay constant. This will expand and contract, and it has already. So what I've done here is on the bottom, before I filled these with resin, so this is just resin that I've mixed up and put a purple colour in it to match with the Purple Heart. I used a caulking compound over the top of the head of the screw so that the resin wouldn't go all around the screw and set it in position. So that's what it does. Caulking compound, I let it go off. I didn't push it in too hard. It's just kind of down against the head and sealing. Then poured the resin the next day, let it go off for a couple of days, then I sanded it back and then put the finish on. You like that? Around the back here, around the back what I've got, you may see it. If I turn it like this, can you see just here, the step? When I sanded this, that was all flush. But now there is that little step. So the top has expanded, which means it's pushed the front towards me, and you can see ever so slightly the little lip here. And that used to be perfect in line. So it's come forward about 2 millimeters. And that'll be fine. You know, it's just one of those things. It's like, look, the live show and what I do is not necessarily the kind of theory you'd learn at college or at a woodworking school. I tend to be what's called a extrovert, but apart from that, I'm not field dependent. I'm field independent, and I have been all my life. People say, well, why didn't you do it such and such a way? Well, because I don't want to just follow along what everyone else does. I want to make my own mistakes and have my own wins. It's just how I am. So when I'm doing stuff on the show, you'll see it, warts and all. It's live, there'll be mistakes, and I like it like that. It's part of the appeal, I think. The dedicated videos I do, I edit a lot, and I make sure that it makes sense. So this thing here, I don't know if anyone else has done that before, but it's working. And I was thinking, all right, well, how do I fill those pocket holes? Because obviously 2 side by side, a plug isn't going to work anymore in there because they're designed for a single hole. And so I thought, well, I'd make a feature out of them. I could have put a cover strip of timber over the top, and then it might have fouled what was happening inside with the sliding tills. Anyway, that's my story, and I'm sticking to it. Today's been a very kind of a laid-back show, basically because I've got this cold, and I really didn't feel like doing anything groundbreaking. But if you picked up a tip today from how to do what I've just done there with pocket holes, or how to put a perfect center line on your router table to follow your miter slot. So if you put your own miter slot in, it may not be parallel as you're going past with your miter gauge, might be moving away. So this way, it's perfect. I'm transferring that center line from the router cutter out both sides, and it will compensate totally if I've got that miter slot in the wrong spot. I've explained how I stuffed it up on the drill press last week. There's a perfect example of being live. And what was the other thing? Showing you the fence to save your fingers when you're using small pieces of timber in a vertical situation. And also just to give you a nicer, cleaner cut. The reason I've got those other holes there are for larger cutters. Anyway, a bit like that. Are you? Let me have a quick read down here. Royal blue, sorry, Purple Heart. Yeah, you're right, Ross. Chris, that was sneaky. That's a good way to be. Learn through our experiences, Jim C. That's quite the idea you've come up with on the pocket holes. Thanks, Jim. All right, that's it for the show today. Thank you, everyone, for hanging out with me. I'm going to have the Patreons chat in another couple of minutes. The dog's decided to go back to sleep again on the floor. He's made his impression. What would the dollar value of the Purple Heart be? Michael, the dollar value of this whole box is around $400. That's because I've gone for exotic timbers. That's Purple Heart. Inside it's cherry. And the outside are pine panels. Now the pine panels have cost a bomb now. Used to cost $40 a panel. Now they are $54, I think, each. And in that box is 3 panels. So there's $150 straight away. So you can see the rest of the material and the hinges and the handles. The Purple Heart, I think I had 2 pieces there. They were around about $100 each. And they were about yay tall, about 4 feet tall by maybe 8 inches wide. So let's say 1200 by 200 by close to 25, maybe an inch thick, dressed. So I was quite happy with that. Anyway, I could have done it with cheaper timber around the outside. I could have gone with an Australian hardwood and dropped the dollars big time, but then it wouldn't look as exclusive. You know what I mean? like you were $401. But again, John, this is Australian money. Like, and what are we now? 68 cents. 68 cents American will buy an Australian dollar. So, you know, all of a sudden, it's now about 2/3 of 400. So it's around, you know, $270 American, US. But I'm very happy with it. It's just so nice. And I am going to see this rock maple here. This is what I'm going to use to make little dividers inside the tills, so things don't slide around in those areas. And I think that'll be really nice. Anyway, listen to this. How nice is that? Piston fit. I like the little nuances you come up with, Dave. Very interesting show. Thank you. My pleasure, Michael. My pleasure. And you too, John. So that gives you an idea. Make one. You just have a look back through the videos that I've done on this, and I've actually created a playlist called Tool Chest. And so basically everything I've done on it will be on there, and the things that I haven't done on it, I've explained on the show after the fact. You'd take 401 US. I don't think so, Greg. I don't think so. I've got a couple of daughters that probably want this before I sold it. Anyway, this is something I'm going to hang on to, and I will possibly start using it as a backdrop in the show, or I might put it down next to Arthur's toolbox down there. You've got a clear VG pine box with mitered corners I built years ago and never put a lid on it. Purple looks good with pine. It sure does. Doesn't it look magic? Make sure you finish it with an oil, and that will hold its purple color. If I found using other things, it doesn't. So I used an Estopol on it once and didn't hold it, went brown. But there's plenty of UV light in here, and oil finish and sanding steel, all that kind of stuff. Do it how I explained on the show, and it should be fine. Right. Anyone else watching? Yep. Okay. Where are we? Up to there. Close the show, and I will fix that up for you, Chris. But it won't be on this show. It'll be the next show. All right. Thanks for hanging out with me. Look after yourselves. Be nice to each other, and I shall see you next week. Bye.